What's up, everybody? It's your boy Andrew Esquire. This is the Legal Mindset where we teach you to be your own judge. Checking in with you from a nice, decent hotel in Bangkok, Thailand, over the next week or so. But today we're here to do a summary of what's going on in the Murdaugh case, as well as just I wanted to do like a bad take review. So I've got some bad takes that are comments from my videos. I have anonymized them. I've just pulled out the comment into a text document. So I'm not trying to go after anybody specifically or have anybody go in there and get shamed. But, you know, I want to address some of these things because there's so many takes on this, theories, otherwise. And I just want to read through them and say, okay, is it a good take? Is it a bad take? Is this a good theory, a bad theory? What are they missing? How are they breaking this down? Because it is crazy to see how some people think about this case. What's up, everybody out there in the world? David Noble. Yes, I did say Bangkok. What's up, my people in London? Karen Cole, how's it going? Floridians, my fellow Floridians, Fallout Zone. Good to see you. Good to see you out there. And the members. So I see Danielle, Bass, Glitter Fart. What else we got in here? Ice Cold Wolf. What's going on, my brother? And we got a good Zero Signal. Got a good group today here on a local Bren. What's going on? Good to see all y'all today over here. And then also we got going on Rumble a little early here. So make sure you smash over there. And then also the DGens on locals. I see y'all. Okay, you're asking me already to pull up a clip. I will queue that up. I will queue that up real quick. So appreciate that. If we got time at the end, I will go through that clip. Now, I want to say before I start, there's some stuff I guess I need to cover because I was running around yesterday. There's some minor visa stuff I've got to clear up. I'm here trying to get my business visa working. So I was only able to stream briefly with that Star Wars girl yesterday. I wasn't able to do my own stream because my times were off. But I missed commenting on some things that went down. So let me comment on those after I get the super chat. Southern Brainwater says, I have not slept better than listening to Judge Ambien in the murder trial. Listen, that judge is the source of all problems. In fact, you know what? We're going to jump into the first clip I'm going to play shows you at the very end. We're going to play the clip from the very end when they're going through the talk about scheduling and witnesses and this trial getting into the weeds. All of this is on the judge. Every single thing is on the judge. The judge allowed it to get here. So when you guys are frustrated with this trial, when you think it's boring, you think it's just something you don't want to tune into, that's on the judge. It's 100% on the judge. What won't he allow in? I'm not sure. It looks like he'll allow anything. It looks like if you just bring him a motion, he'll be like, well, I guess we got to let it in because, we just want to let all the evidence in, That's just what we do, It's not like I'm sitting on this bench as a barrier to what comes in or not. It's not like that's my job. It's not that that's something I should be doing. It's fairly ridiculous. He's mad about Grandpappy Murdaugh's photo. Maybe. All right. So let me address some things here that I guess I need to address right away. So I know that I heard a couple clips, and I know these may be completely out of context. So I'm going to take them like graciously, right? One is about the value. I heard Rakeda going off about the value of jury analysis. And I wanted to get in on that and have a thoughtful conversation on that. Because here's what I think about jury analysis. And that being said, obviously James is my homeboy. And I think that he hasn't done this. So here's my thing with jury analysis. When you're looking at a jury, there's some things that are freaking obvious. If somebody is sleeping, they're clearly not listening. If somebody is paying attention very intensely, that is something that you can say, hey, they're paying attention intently. Now, what Where the problem is, and where jury analysis becomes bullshit, is saying that that particular juror is taking it in this way. And that this is the conclusion that they're drawing from that. Then it starts to get into bullshit. But being able to look at them and say, this is the way we're reacting, and draw some very clear connections to that, I think that's perfectly fine. Are the jurors allowed to sleep? I mean, I think if they were snoring, there would be a problem, but I don't think that you're actually required to stay awake the entire time. But yes, I mean, if you're trying to get down and predict each one, and you're trying to like pick their brain, and okay, maybe some of your assumptions are going to be right, but it's about as right as astrology or tarot or anything else, right? It's about as accurate as picking randomly. So that's what I'm at jury analysis when you get into depth. But I still want to hear: are they asleep? Are they awake? Are they conscious? Are they boring? They look bored? Are they just looking around the room idly and not really paying attention to the witness? That to me is interesting, and I want to hear it. I just want to know. You can draw your own conclusions from it, be your own judge. If you want to leap to conclusions, that's fine. That's your ability. But I want to know what they're doing. Because look, as members of the public, we all could go to this trial. We all could go and sit in the galley. It's something we could do. So allowing us access, telling us what is happening in something that is public, in a public hearing, is totally permissible. I have zero problem with that. What's up, Law Nerd Clips? Good to see you in the chat. Thank you for the service you provide, especially during these trials. I think the clips are so worth it. So guys, if you're not subscribed, make sure you check out Law Nerd Clips. Very unbreaded, very based, and always clippable. So there was that one thing. All right, now the second one. I know that Joe made some comments about EDB, and I'm going to go on with Joe later. So you guys know Joe is my homeboy. I listened to a clip about Joe going in on EDB, and I don't think he was actually going after it. I think what he was saying was, if I articulating Joe's point, I believe Joe was trying to say that he thinks that EDB might be paying YouTube or paying into the algorithm. And he actually drew a distinction from LB and saying, well, she's doing something LB's not. And actually, I would disagree with him there. I would say it's very likely that both of them, have some association with a professional organization, whether that's a multi-channel marketing network, a brand management network, which is totally permissible, which a lot of people have. Which does give you certain privileges and rights in the algorithm, does give you, deeper connections. But here's the difference. Here's why EDB does so much better. At the end of the day, she's just better. She has a personality. She has a message. She has a clear target audience. It's clear who she is. She has a mission, a vision. She's done consistently good content. She's never griped about it, never moaned about it. She just keeps doing good work. And she was pre-existing before any of this went down. Put all those factors together, and boom, you have success. And by the way, we can disagree about this trial because from what I see, EDB and I would disagree about this trial, but that's fine. We can have a civil conversation. I have nothing but respect for him. So I think Joe's take is a little bit bad on that. He doesn't see the qualitative difference in LB not having a personality and EDB having a personality. Like it or hate it, right? Like it or hate it. You can dislike it. You don't have to watch, right? But she actually has a personality. That's the difference. So that's my take on both of those things. I just thought I would mention that. But people can have different takes. People can be pro-prosecution, pro-defense. You choose who you watch. You guys choose who you watch. You can tune out. And if you go over to Ricada, Nick, for example, Nick has said he is biased towards the defense. He is biased towards the presumption of innocence. And if you ask me, I would say, well, which side are you on? Biased towards presumption of innocence. Because I think that is consistent with our Constitution. I think that's consistent with our founding fathers. I think that's consistent with due process. I think being biased towards the presumption of innocence is also consistent with reasonable doubt. And today what we're going to get into is people just failing to understand reasonable doubt. And yeah, shout out to Joe getting out of YouTube jail. I didn't know he got out of YouTube jail today. I may be able to pop on his. I may pop on his channel later. I think he wants to talk a little bit about the right eating itself or something like that. Although from what I see, I just saw that Jeremy and Tim Pool seem to be patching things up. Let me share this with you guys over here. They seem to be patching things up. Look at this. Together again. This past week of insanity with Veritas and Republicans getting shot made me realize we have to stand together. I'm sorry too, Jeremy. Let us not distract and disrupt us. And they both did little apologies here. So, there you go. They kissed and made up and it's all good. I mean, Jeremy's always more of like a memer guy and he's always just trying to have fun. So I never thought it would be personal. I never thought Jeremy would keep that grudge for too long. But anyways, I may come on with Joe and talk a little bit about that later. Tim Pool is not right leaning. Well, Tim Pool is Tim Pool. I'll say it that way. Let's see. And shout out to everybody who's joining on Rumble and on Locals. Make sure you guys smash the like button. By the way, thank you so much for getting me to 10K on Rumble. Appreciate you guys. It's been really great over there. Rumble's giving me some good opportunities. And one good opportunity that I have to show right now because I've been a little negligent here, or not really negligent. I'm fulfilling my contractual duties, is Field of Greens. If you guys haven't checked out Field of Greens, if you haven't heard about this from any other content creators, because it's a great product, you guys should check this out. They actually shipped the product to me in Korea the day before I left. So I only had a chance. I've already tried the normal one, the green one on the left. I've already tried that one and I liked it. But I did get a chance to try the wild berry. I actually do like that, even though it does sound kind of gay, but it actually tastes pretty good. The raw one, I've heard some people say they don't like the raw one, but to each their own. They sent all three to me, so I'll be reviewing all three when I try the last one when I get back to Korea. But that being said, use my code MINDSET in the description for 15% off. It's a great product. If you can't get your 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, you're going to definitely want to go over and check that out. Add it to your health regime. It will help you out. And it will help you be strong enough to survive really shitty court cases. And that is Field of Greens by Brickhouse Nutrition. Does it get you high? No, unfortunately not. Now, let's move over to our topic for today. And I want to start with this video. I think this right here is where you get... and I'll move myself to the corner here. I think this right here is where you get the explanation of why this trial is so bad. I think this summarizes the trial and a lot of the problems in the trial very, very, very succinctly.
The nature of the objection.
Your Honor, as I understand this, the relevance of this under the state's theory is financial pressure due to he said $10 million that he expected the defendant to pay. These details about interactions with other defendants, the relevance is just not apparent. And then
Your Honor, through my questions, I've been trying to minimize getting into the weeds on that. I believe the response that the witness, I'm happy to proffer an answer to that particular question, is communicating to the defense that he, intended to sue Maggie and Paul in Beaufort County if he detected anything that he thought in Hampton County that was untoward. And I think that that's specifically relevant to the specific pressures that were rising on this defendant in April of 2021.
Well, I think you could have asked him that question, but I agree with the defense. You've said you're not trying to get in the weeds, but you're far into the weeds, into the other case, and I sustain the objection.
Okay, so here's the problem. So the judge literally said, you're far into the weeds. Who let you get there? Who allowed that? It's the judge. The judge allowed that. The judge made this happen. So it's, this to me is the ultimate what the fuck moment, the ultimate point of why this trial is a fucking joke, because the judge does not realize his responsibility. His responsibility is as a gatekeeper. It's to keep stuff out. He's allowed these errors to happen. These did not have to happen, but for him allowing these witnesses in. What did you think they were going to bring up? Why are you sustaining the objection literally after the jury is gone? What the fuck is going on here? And then listen to this continue, and they continue to fail and fail and fail.
And we will resume at 9:30. Mr. Harpootlian.
Get a little bit of, I will say, guys, I do miss Dick Poon. I do miss Dick Poon. It's been a while. Just his mannerisms. I mean, they get to me.
At some point in this case, the defense will have the opportunity to call witnesses. I'm not sure when that's going to be. Anyway, a number of our witnesses, when I say a number, at least 4, perhaps 5, are from out of state. They're experts, so it's prohibitively expensive for us to just fly them in and have them sit somewhere for a week or two. I wonder if we could inquire of the state if there's some end to their case that they predict will happen within, and because, Your Honor, if they tell us they're going to end on, I mean, it's sort of the reverse. They tell us they're going to end on 10 days from today, and they end 8 days from today, or we won't have witnesses to put up. So we delay the court. So, and it's not. I've talked to the Attorney General several times, and he has been unable to predict to me when that might happen. I thought perhaps, and I'm not asking he do that right now, but perhaps he could, Your Honor, if it would ask him, he could like consult with his team and think about when that might happen. And again, I'm only asking so that we don't say, we don't have a witness here. They're in Chicago or Connecticut or whatever, because they have to book flights and they have to, I'm not whining. I'm just saying to some specific.
Reasonable request. I certainly understand.
I don't do that much.
So the judge is laughing. He's going, this is a reasonable request. Not only is this reasonable, ladies and gentlemen, in most trials, they would have already done this. They would have said, hey, this is the trial schedule. You got to wrap it up by then. This is your time. You got this day or this day. We'll give you plus or minus 1 day, but you got to wrap this shit up. I mean, and I know the judge keeps wanting to extend it, but let's say you do agree to extend it. You give new deadlines. You say, okay, we'll allow the prosecution to go till X. The defense starts at X. Expert witnesses come in then. This is a very, very, very basic thing. It's very common in many trials. If the prosecution had asked for this, they would have done it already. And it's his fucking job. And this makes me incensed. It's his job to control this. And he's just saying, y'all let to the Godzilla Ken Watanabe, let them fight. Just stand back and doing nothing. And pretending he doesn't have the power. It's crazy. This part to me, and just he's laughing about it. I'm like, it's not funny. It's your fuck up.
Thank you.
I believe, and I think the defense counsel will have to concede. I've been very accommodating at what our next day's schedule is, and trying to provide that. I've tried my best to communicate with the defense, and I think he would have to concede.
But he's not worried about that part. He wants to know, when are you going to be through?
Well, I think.
And it's funny because that's what the judge needs to set. The people laughing, but it's the fucking judge's job. It's funny because literally everybody knows that this is just cumulative evidence at this point. It's hilarious.
And I'm not
And
the only one.
I told, and he says I didn't tell him, and I told him that, right now I'm thinking at the latest midweek next week is what I was thinking. I told him that earlier today. And again, Your Honor understands these are fluid. Objection can happen, cross-examination happens, and camera proceedings can happen. But that is what I told him.
Does that give you a sufficient idea?
I can't give you an idea. But if as this process goes on, they decide they need to. I mean, again, I accused him of gilding the lily and plowing on. It's apparently instinctive. I'm not criticizing it. It's his case. I am criticizing it. It's his case. But I just, and he has every day when I've asked him, who you calling tomorrow? Been 100% cooperative, and we're going to do the same for him.
That's
But,
basic.
As we proceed through tomorrow, and he thinks he's going to be done midweek, next Wednesday of next week.
That's my best assessment right now. Yes, sir.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to structure a plan where we have available witnesses Wednesday, Thursday, that we don't have to fly in, but it may be the following week before we can get those folks here, if that makes some sense. I mean,
I understand. Well, we'll need to address it as we go, and I think maybe reassess things. And give you some lead time.
Once again, whose job is it to do that? Whose job is it to manage the calendar? Whose job is it to build in that lead time? It's him. It's him. And that's the crazy thing, and that's about all for that particular clip. I don't think we need to see much more of that because that's where that goes. But my point there is this. My point there is that there is no plan. There is clearly no plan to this. There's clearly no thought to this. And it's becoming increasingly obvious that this is just the judge letting everything in, letting everything happen, and letting them sort it out. It should not be trials, and you've seen other trials. We've seen Rittenhouse, right? We've seen Amber Heard. We've seen these trials go down and be relatively prompt. Even the frickin' Brooks trial looks organized compared to this. I mean, seriously, at least you could predict what was going to happen. You're like, okay, this is going to happen. The only debate was how many times are we going to hear grounds? You know, the only thing was what objections we're going to have. But we had the speed. We knew where it was going to go. We said, hey, this is going to be a 2-week trial, and it was a 2-week trial. Never before have I seen a trial that was supposed to be 3 weeks that is now going to be 6 weeks all of a sudden in the middle of the trial. This is trial by ambush. There is case law upon case law saying this is not what you're supposed to have, is trials that all of a sudden during the trial become something different. And the fact that the state had it planned the entire time and the judge failed to rule on that plan before the trial is disgusting. And I think it's an aberration of justice, whether or not you think he's guilty or not. And we'll get into that. We'll get into the takes because I know the wine moms are going to be, out there. And by the way, there's 2 types of wine moms. I had to establish this another one. There's the hot, cool wine moms. They're fine with me. And then there's the cats wine moms. Talking about the cats. There's 2. But listen, for me, all I've seen, and I've been going through this, I've been combing through to see if there's anything that's been popping out to me from the trial to be super relevant. I haven't found anything. It's all been financial crime stuff, which to me, I ask again and again, what does this go to prove motive of him for killing his wife and his son? All these things happening around the same time does not prove his motive, his guilt, his intent to kill wife and his son. So I got that, and Mimi, I got the clip you sent. If I have time at the end, I'll review that. Okay, but we're right now. Let's get into some bad takes. So I've got them all hooked up here in a spreadsheet. Got into my just copy paste into here. So I'll read the first couple, and the first couple are pretty predictable, and these are the ones I want to start with, which is the people who just flat out think he's guilty, right? So the people who just drop, and a lot of people said that's why guilty for sure. He's guilty for sure, no conscience. A lot of people spam guilty. Okay, so let's start with that. Let's start with the people who just say guilty. I'm okay if you vote in the chat that you think he's guilty. In fact, right now, I'll put up the poll. Do you think Alex is guilty of murder? Yes or no? Is he guilty of murder? not financial crimes, not anything else, guilty of murder. And by the way, thank you so much for Leslie Kohler for the 10 memberships. Appreciate you so much. And also, I saw Monica S. Welcome to the RPG, the replay gang. You have access to the emojis as well as all the backup episodes. A lot of my episodes, we have to go private or members only because people are essentially hating. They'll find something and they'll hate. All right. So people who say they're guilty, just say they're guilty. I'm okay if you think they're guilty. That's totally fine. You can say, hey, based on the evidence I've seen, I think I believe Alex Murdaugh's guilty. However, I really want to know why. I would love to know why. Like, give me the evidence that tipped it over that. Just tell me why. Is it because he owns guns? Is it because you think that all the financial crimes led to him being guilty because he's done the financial crimes, he's guilty? I mean, just give me a decent reason. And over here, I want to get this one from locals. Vibe AI sent a $10 tip who said, this whole thing is a shit show. Holy F nuggets. Well, howdy, y'all. Howdy, Vibe. Good to see you. Thanks for the support. Appreciate you over there on locals with all of the locals degenerates. Also coming up with excellent memes that I can't show on YouTube. All right, so there's that. That's what I think about the guilty. Let's go on to, wait, the poll disappeared? Poll should still be up. You can always hide it. I think maybe sometimes when you answer it, it hides it. And I know a lot of people that started this trial were leaning one way or another and have been convinced. I know some people that started thinking, hey, this guy's got to be guilty, right? And then you see that there's nothing, and you're like, man, it's looking more innocent. I like that comment. He's guilty of being a scumbag, but I find it hard to believe he's guilty of murder. It's a good comment. All right, so let's go with the next take. And I want you guys to tell me what you think about these comments, what you think about these takes, these theories. So here's one. Let me get this one over here. I'll go in the corner. I think Maggie found out all he had been doing and confronted him about it. Paul had already caused lots of problems in their family and financials because of the boat crash. I think he favored the older son, and Paul has been a problem for years. He knows if he just kills her, and then he would be suspect number one. If he killed Paul too, then he will look like the grieving dad and husband. He can settle on the boat lawsuit case because I believe he has money tucked away somewhere. Okay, we're going to go through a lot of these presumptions. Depending on his overall personality, he could easily viciously kill them because that's his plan. Making it look as if two guns are used, extremely violent murders, puts more doubt that he could have or would have done it because it looked like two murderers. I know it's not the norm, but did anyone know he was a drug addict? Did anyone know he was stealing money? His own best friends, co-workers, and family members didn't really know who he was, or they would have not been so easily conned for his lies and money. So did anyone really, really know him at all? No. Therefore, we have to know that he's not capable. Therefore, how do we know he's not capable of committing these violent murders? Maggie supposedly lived for the money, the Murdaugh name, and the family's power. The anger she would confront Alex with if she found out he had jeopardized it all would have been the straw that broke the camel's back, smaller things to turn people to murders. There are so many assumptions in this, and I love this one because it stacks so many different things. So let's go through and pull those out. I want to pull one out, which is the most important, which is this statement. Therefore, and I'll drag it a little bit up so you guys see it. Therefore, how do we know he is not capable of committing these violent murders? This is literally inverting the burden of proof. This is taking the burden of proof and saying, well, he's guilty because you can't prove that he's not capable of it. This is not due process. This is a horrible take. And I pray to God this person is never on a jury. You do not have the burden to prove you did not do something. That is not how reasonable doubt works. That's not how the law works. By the way, everybody is capable of killing. Everybody is capable of murder in the right circumstance. If you're a mother and someone tries to take your child and you kill them, it's justified. It might be self-defense, but you still killed them. You still committed a homicide. It's a justifiable homicide. Look at times of war. In times of war, you are called to murder somebody else. It's justifiable, but you're intentionally killing another. Everybody has it. You have that in you. You haven't been pushed there to that edge. You have that inside of you. It's not your duty to debunk the fact that you didn't act on that. So that one's out. That one's out. Let's start from the beginning then. Okay. So Paul, here's the thing. Maggie, I think, first of all, there's the thing. I think, speculation, right? Maggie found out all he had been doing and confronted him about it. Let's hear about this. Where is the proof? This is my thing. Where is the proof in the courtroom? Where is the proof in the courtroom? You need to show, if you believe that this happened, that Maggie found it out and confronted him, show me. Prove it. Otherwise, it didn't happen. This never happened if you cannot prove this. Paul caused a lot of problems for the families and financials because of the boat crash. Okay, well, we understand the boat crash is an issue, but how does killing him get rid of that? That doesn't remove the liability. That doesn't close out that case. If you kill Paul too, then he will look like a grieving dad and husband. No, he'll be suspect number one. You are always suspect number one in a murder case. You're always going to be suspect number one. I don't care how many, I don't care what what happens. The relatives, for example, if your wife is dead, you're always, the husband is always suspect number one. That's period. That's the whole Gone Girl thing, right? It's always going to be number one, the person who's closest to them. Period. Depending on his overall personality, he could easily viciously kill them because that's his plan. This sentence doesn't even make sense. Depending on his personality, he could easily kill them. I don't know about that. I think that viciously killing someone that takes a very specific state of mind. A very specific state of mind. Now, could drugs do that? Maybe. But you got to sell me that. And so they bring up the thing about him being an addict. First of all, you got to prove that. You got to show that in court. Bring people to testify to that. And bring people to testify how he was like when he was high. That's what I would want to see. What were they like when they were high? And then they're bringing up stealing money. What does stealing money have to do with murder? It does not do with murder. There are plenty of people who commit white-collar crimes who never would have the balls to actually kill somebody. So going back to this, do you really know him? This is a person, and I can tell when by this right here, they've been listening to the prosecution. This is a person who's been listening to the prosecution and who just wants to parrot what the prosecution says, which is totally, totally fine. You just see it. You see it coming. Let's see here. Let me get these two. IWD says, I like the theory that this trial is merely an excuse for enraged townsfolk and greedy rivals to take down a dynastic political machine. Wouldn't be the first time. And honestly, that makes plenty of sense. And that may be, Occam's razor. That may be what happens here. That this is just the plebs taking out the blue bloods. And by the way, the blue bloods can be corrupt as fuck. I'm not simping for them at all or Alex at all. It seems like he's incompetent and corrupt in general, but that doesn't mean he's guilty of murder. So yeah, I can see the plebs rising up and taking out the blue bloods. Absolutely, a theory of the case I could get behind. It's not a guilt thing, but it can explain the result if they find him guilty. Southern Brainwater, hot take. If he did it, he likely didn't pull the trigger. But if it was for hire, they'd have digital evidence. That may be true, but also you got to understand a lot of the for hire stuff, especially if he's dealing through his drug dealer, they're not going to put that in an email necessarily. You're not going to say, hey, we're doing the murder at 8 p.m., right? Are we still on for 8 or are we going to push to 9? They're not texting about that. Nobody who actually does that, who goes out and is going to pull the trigger on somebody, is going to put that under text. Now, they would have some communications maybe. Possibly, right? Him and the dealer, whomever else. But then you got to get somebody to flip. You have to get somebody to flip. Yeah, you don't put the murder in your Outlook calendar. You don't have your Calendarly schedule murder. Then that's not something that actually happens. Yes, like Barnes says, always in writing, never in writing, always in cash. It's a great quote, fantastic quote. On Rumble saying the only piece of evidence that gives me any pause is a Snapchat video with his likely voice. So this is one that got brought up, and I will try to find that one real quick for you. So somebody had a take on that. Somebody had a take about the Snapchat video and saying that the Snapchat video was the only thing that they believe was convincing, that they found convincing. And I can say, look, at least you say, hey, that's a piece of evidence. And if somebody says, hey, I think he's guilty based on lying in the Snapchat video, I don't think that's enough proof. But if that convinces you, okay, at least you've cited something. I'm not going to be that pissed off at you because you've cited something that's been brought into court. At least the Snapchat video has been entered into court. If the Snapchat video is enough to convince you, okay. I don't think it's enough. It's not enough for me. If I was on a jury, it wouldn't be enough for me. I don't think it reaches reasonable doubt, but at least you gave me a reason. At least you said something. And by the way, guys, smash the like button. Say something by smashing it. And in the poll, 70% of you, 71% think Alex is not guilty of murder, and 29% say you think he is guilty of murder. So got a 71-29% split, almost 70-30. IDB says, by the way, not sure if you got my chat on this the other day. The commies and carpetbaggers in South Miami. I did. I read that one, but I'll read it again because this is worthwhile. They managed to get Shorty's Barbecue on US 1, scheduled for demolition, supposedly absolutely breaded. Yeah, I went to Shorty's Barbecue almost all of my life growing up. I like the side dishes better than the barbecue. The barbecue was mid, but it was an institution. It was just a greasy spoon type barbecue place, very casual. The whole family could come there. Everybody came there, all races, backgrounds. Everybody went to Shorty's. And I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss that dearly when I come back to Miami. Thank you, IWD. All right. So here's the next one. You guys are going to like this next theory. His red hair means he's guilty. I know. I was married to one. Listen, we all know gingers. We all have had issues with gingers in our lives. I mean, I can say, but as a redhead, I'm offended. Listen. Just because you don't have a soul doesn't mean you're guilty of murder. I will defend you even if you're a soulless ginger. Even as a soulless ginger. I will step up and I will represent you. Even you gingers. I got you. You don't need a soul to be innocent. All right. So the next theory was, I think it was a botched murder-suicide. He was desperate. He would be exposed soon, and that exposure would have a good life for him and his family, would end a good life for him and his family. He killed his wife and son. He planned to kill himself, but lost his nerve. He then had to scramble to develop an alibi. Same again later in September. He wanted to die, but knew he wasn't up to it, so he lured his cousin Eddie to help him at his car, to set him up to off him. Drug cartel dealers would not be using firearms from Alex's own hunt camp. They'd bring their own guns. Here's why I don't like this one. Not because it's a theory that couldn't, I guess, be true. I mean, I guess there's zero proof of his suicidal nature. They haven't proven that in that moment he wanted to commit suicide. But drug cartel dealers would absolutely use similar weapons. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you take a weapon that's available and shoot somebody with it? That would obfuscate your culpability, especially if you just got guns lying around. Completely possible. And it's not been established that we have no data. We've had no proof. That little tool expert did not prove that those guns that we've seen, the parade of princesses, all the guns, all those pretty princesses they took through the courtroom, none of those are the murder weapon. We have no proof that any of those were the murder weapon. All of those guns are just guns. They're big, scary guns. And we've got one, that was killed by a shotgun. Could be any shotgun. There's no tracing that. It's just, as long as it's the same gauge, the most common gauge out there, could be anything. And mind you, the shotgun death was the most gory of the deaths. And if Paul was carrying a 300 blackout and he got disarmed and then shotgunned, kind of would explain a lot there. Hunt says, whether he did it or not, the state hasn't produced a strong enough case to prove guilt beyond reasonable doubt. That's where I'm at right now. That's where I'm at. Right now, none of this financial bullshit proves guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Not for murder. Maybe for financial crime, sure, fine. Not for murder. IDBD says, I honestly think locals took out his family. You know how it is. Since Mario has that small town mindset, the whole thing reeks of Justice Del Barrio. Yeah, it sort of is that way. I can see it like people who are pissed off locally and pissed off at Paul and the family went after Paul. I could see that happening. Some real interpersonal drama. I could see that being a thing. All right, the next theory. Let's blow this up here. I don't think he was trying to do it for. I don't think he was trying to make money for his family. Alex tried to take care of himself, regardless of whether he killed Maggie or Paul or not. Well, this is, how is he guilty for being selfish? Okay, he's selfish, right? Alex Murdaugh is selfish as fuck. Okay, I'm selfish as fuck. Does that make me guilty of murder? Did I murder somebody because I'm selfish? Being selfish is not a crime. Totally okay to be selfish. All right. I think the financial crimes are highly relevant. Okay, as soon as you start with this, you lose a lot of credibility, but all right, here we go. The confrontation by Alex's partners on the morning of the murders could be enormously influential and the beginning of unraveling of his sanity. This confrontation would have been horrendous for him. His family respectability of 100 plus years would mean absolutely everything to him. It would have been the bedrock of his life, and to wear such a massive scandal would have been unbearable. Not just in front of the townsfolk, but in front of his kids, his wife, and extended family. On top of this, he might have suspected that Maggie had been making inquiries about divorcing him, and he might have envisaged ending up destitute. Not easy for someone who's been wealthy all his life. What? I mean, I don't think it was because he was afraid of being poor. You don't murder somebody because you're afraid of being poor. That's not something you do. So, yeah, I don't buy that. His fear of poverty was the reason to kill somebody. All right, next. He doesn't need a dang good motive. Let me do it one more time. I envision this as like like some sort of screeching. He doesn't need a motive. Did Chris Watts need one? What about Casey Anthony? Why is it so hard to believe he could do it when so many have? This is top tier idiocy. So you're telling me that when you're charged with intentional murder, they shouldn't have to improve intent? Are you kidding me? Are you okay in the head? Do you understand this? Casey Anthony, Chris Watts, a very specific situation, but Casey Anthony was proven innocent because they couldn't prove intent. That's the whole point. Did they not realize that Casey Anthony was proven innocent? The whole problem was the state had trouble proving motive and intentional killing. That was the problem there. I would prefer the state get a conviction. And, you know, if they charged this in a way that didn't require intent, that was sort of a hot-blooded murder or some sort of manslaughter, maybe. But you have to prove intent. That's the whole point, buddy. I'm sorry. Just drink more wine. Maybe you'll be less angry. Motive is not necessary for murder. Yep. Yeah, just need to, you know, just charge them with it. They're guilty. He was livid, I think. The first victim was a liability useless to him. The second one wouldn't get that loan. Plus, she spoiled her son. Now a useless burden that will cost him millions. That's what happened, pure and simple. So Paul was a grown-ass adult. Yes, there's the boat case, which is related to Paul, but Paul really is not the responsibility of Alex anymore. As a grown adult, that you're on your own. You don't have to be liable for that. And murdering somebody doesn't remove that liability. Maggie and Paul was the first victim, right? So saying that, okay, the second one wouldn't get him that loan. She spoiled her son. So because she spoiled him, you kill her? I don't know about that. And you ask her specifically to come over. By the way, Alex invited Maggie over, not Paul. So if the intended victim was Paul, why would he invite Maggie over? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't add up. Haven't shown that in court at all. He loved them so much, he didn't want them to go through living on a tight budget. Maybe he just lost it and he had a moment of pure panic when his wife and son said something about his failure. So you kill your wife and your son because their death is better than living in poverty? I don't think so. I really don't think so. You can do a riches to rags and back again, success story. I don't think that's going to do it. Honestly, I would rather live in poverty than not be alive. I've lived with an addict. He could be fine in a moment, and he could be a manic screaming rage. I never knew what could cause this. So, you know what's funny? Of all the theories, I actually don't have a problem with the drug theories. Here's the thing. I've seen people with addiction problems, and I've seen people just going crazy on drugs. People down there in Florida, remember that bath salts incident with the bath salts and chewing the face off? I've seen people on some crazy reactions, drug reactions. I know people that have like narcolepsy and, they'll have, spasms and do really stupid shit when they're high. So if you wanted to sell me a high theory, here's what you have to prove. You have to prove he's high at the time. So give me a toxicology report. Show me he was high. Show me that at the time he was high as a fucking kite. If you can show me that and then bring in doctors, bring in support, then at least you try to prove, but you haven't shown any of that. They haven't even tried to show any of that. And yeah, if he's been an addict for 20 years and no one saw him act like a psycho, doesn't that mean he's pretty good at hiding it? Does that mean he doesn't normally act like that? He doesn't normally act crazy? So that one I'm not buying as much. All right, next theory. I completely agree. I think Alex got into something dodgy, and I think they came to threaten him. Paul couldn't keep his mouth shut and it got out of hand. I can't see why he would kill him either. Something doesn't feel right. This is actually a good take. I wanted to slip in a good take because these are people who agree with us. And by the way, this is in response to one of my videos. So all of these are comments in response to one or several of my Murdaugh videos. So these are all actual responses from real people. I've anonymized them so you guys don't know, but these are all real responses. You guys can even see them if you go back. IWD says, there's a level of impulse control and premeditation in his other crimes that destroys this person's arguments. Junkies don't think long term. No. So if he was just having a crazy drug reaction, he would have had crazy drug reactions in the other crimes. The other crimes were clearly premeditated, allegedly, right? The ones that have not been proven yet. But clearly there's some level of premeditation to them. There's thought, there's reasoning, there's a motive. We're missing that here. Okay, this one's a little bit a long one, but I like these, longer theories. Okay, here's a motive based on this rumor. Maggie was filing for divorce. She supposedly was living full-time at their beach house. It's speculated Alex lured her to the property under the auspice of going with him to see Handsome, who was on his deathbed. So if and when you're not married, your partner can be called to testify against you. And Maggie knew too much. So Maggie texted someone saying she felt something wasn't right. The rumor comes across directly from the neighbors or others who live there, per Mandy from the Murdaugh Murder podcast. We'll talk about all this podcast bullshit. She's a journalist who's been following this case for 4 years and also lives in the area. So heavily biased, you're saying. Okay, got it. I believe this rumor. I even considered whether Alex and Paul might together have plotted to kill Maggie and perhaps got her down there to look at the dog's tail. Perhaps Alex promised Paul that with Maggie gone, he'd have had a better chance of avoiding prison. And then Alex killed him anyway, because after all, he's a Murdaugh. And then there's a comment, I love watching him melt in his chair. He's so embarrassed because he's so cocky, no remorse, just humility. All of this is speculation. You do not have neighborhood rumors, low country rumors, right? From friends, from people who are in the neighborhood who probably have a vested interest. They probably don't like the Murdaughs. They probably have a cousin's cousin who was fucked over, who was convicted, who was, caught hooking or whatever else. They got some country ass shit beef that's going on here. And here's the other thing too. It's a fucking podcast. I'm sorry. Your podcast doesn't matter. Yes, your podcast and your podcast and your podcast. All of those podcasts are worth jack shit. They're worth zero. So get the fuck out of here with your, on this podcast. Get out of here. It's not in court. Get it in court. It can't even pass the threshold for hearsay. It's hearsay evidence. It's a freaking rumor. She's like, oh, well, I heard it from my cousin's mother's sister wife. Get the hell out of here. You've got to bring it in court. If the prosecution had this, if this was a smoking gun, they would bring it in. It's not a thing. I'm sorry, wine moms. Drink more wine. Get that Ziva subscription. It's not going to work. Invest in those boxes. They're better for value. But this drives me mad. And there was a further comment down here. Where was it? Here we go. Y'all are way behind on this case. Have you listened to the podcast? And I anonymized this one. It was a different one. But, then you would know all the players. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't listen to crazy redneck rumors. And that makes us unqualified to cover what's in court. We are covering what's in court, not he said, she said bullshit. If you want that, go elsewhere. Plenty of podcasts for that, for the speculation. Yeah, the lawn crime chat. You want to go there, lawn cuck? Go in that chat. Speculate away, baby. Not over here. Bass says, my current theory is Tiny Tim bit Cash's tail to lure the Murdaughs into an ambush. At this point, that's as legitimate as anything else. IWD says, and now the home fried journo swerves the good old boy. This reminds me of an episode of In the Heat of the Night. Oh, In the Heat of the Night. That was good. That was a good one. SC Medic says on Rumble for $2. Thank you so much. SC Medic 71 says, I think he borrowed money from the wrong people. Some parts of the coast have some interesting Eastern Bloc organizations. Oh yeah, they've also got some interesting Chinese connections, some interesting border connections. And I absolutely agree, SC Medic. Absolutely agree. They likely did borrow money from the wrong guy. That's a very good theory. And they haven't brought that up, because I think that's exculpatory. So let me wrap it here. There's a couple others that are equally retarded, but there's some comments I want to get to, which is, dang, if he didn't do it, some of these theories would make going to jail safer than being acquitted. Yeah, and this is what's so exculpatory about this. What makes me think he didn't do it is that his life was dangerous. There were people making death threats. There were people coming for him. And then this last one I wanted to get to. Oh, sorry. I'll get to this one. Guilty. He was at the scene of the crime and lied about it. Okay. So he's guilty. He's guilty of lying to law enforcement, perhaps. Maybe he's guilty of perjury. That's not guilty of murder. People can lie and not be guilty of murder. That does not make you guilty for the same thing just because you lied. And I like this one here. Stop trying to make him look like he's not guilty. Something made him snap. No, I will not. Because, as Bifford says here, you're actually innocent until proven guilty in this country. So I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not going to stand down on that. That's a principle. That's the law. I'm sorry it hurts your feelings. I'm sorry that you want to convict people without due process, but I'm not making an excuse. But the last one here I want to get, which is great, is some of the theories in these comments to provide reasonable doubt, yet most of them say guilty. Yeah, so all of these comments, the fact that they're on like a shoestring, the fact that these theories are so wild and speculative makes me see, hey, there's reasonable doubt. The fact that you have to go to crazy speculative comments to find a motive makes me think there's still reasonable doubt in this case. It makes me think the state has not proved anything, just like Don says. My man. Welcome to the Mod Squad, Don. Don't do anything. And he's guilty of being a moron. I'll agree with that, but that's different. I think Bubba ran off and AM chased the dog. that could be very true. He ran off with the guinea hen. All right. Okay. I need to wrap here soon because I do have to go, but I'll watch a little bit of the clip from Law Nerd Clips, just because Law Nerd Clips is my homeboy. And I say that in a broad, gender neutral way. So I'll watch a little bit of this one. We're not going to watch all of it. It's 10 minutes, but I'll watch a little bit of this one. Okay. So let's watch this.
Late last night.
Oh, the GoFundMe
page to set up soliciting donations. Until the wording was changed during the testimony of the last witness, it read that
the wording
my
was
mother
changed.
Caretaker for Alec Murdaugh's mom.
The GoFundMe.
She recently had to testify against him and goes on to say, I want to reward her for her bravery and honesty. The very first donation made on this GoFundMe page, which was made shortly after it first went up last night, was made by attorney Mark Tinsley, who paid her $1,000, presumably following the description.
Interesting.
In consideration of her testimony.
Whoa.
Okay.
There I have, if you want,
Wow.
the screenshot showing that.
Uh-oh, danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Mark Tinsley's name actually appeared as the donor for 1,000. He removed his name, and it now appears as anonymous.
Yeah, I
Attorney
fucked
General
up
has
there.
confirmed
You
with
fucked up
Tinsley
there, son.
that he admits he did make this payment to the witness in the middle of trial.
Uh-oh, looks like a quid pro quo now.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
And therefore,
It's focusing on him now.
Your Honor, and therefore,
Mother's kid.
the defense
his
removed to
mother's
exclude
caretaker.
his testimony.
Yeah.
And,
on what basis?
Your Honor, the legal standard
Bribery?
is
He's
difficult
literally
to
a
find.
bribe.
I cannot, searching Westlaw, find a single case in which a prosecutor has put tries to put to the jury a lawyer who has already testified he has a direct financial interest in the outcome of this case, who is also making monetary payments to prosecution witnesses during the trial.
Ooh.
Your Honor, I believe
Yeah,
that this is a
that's-
question of first impression.
That's
And
good.
because it's a question of, I understand that the facts here in this case are disturbing, but because it's a question of first impression, I would respectfully urge the court to keep in mind the aphorism that bad facts make bad law. A prosecutor, to my knowledge, to Westlaw's knowledge, has never before done this.
What's improper?
Because it's dirty as fuck. This is not improper at all. This is improper. This is not proper at all. This is completely improper, 100% improper for this to happen, especially during trial.
About what he did.
About what Mr. Tinsley did?
Yes.
He made a financial payment to a witness in the middle of a trial that he has a financial interest in the outcome of. He has
Yeah, that's, I can't believe he would make that.
How does the judge not see this as a problem right away? How is it possible? How does the judge, this is, to me, this is already blows my mind. How is it possible? This motherfucker does not see this as a problem. Does not see bribery as a problem. Paying witnesses as a problem. Holy shit. This guy should be stripped of the bench. Yeah, I mean, I see some of the comments out there. I can't say some of those things, but should be stripped of the bench. Wow. Wow. I'll watch a little bit more of this, but I mean, I don't need to see any more to know this judge should not be on the bench.
Still
I can't believe the judge just asked
made a
that.
$1,000 payment.
No,
as a
this is
reward for
Kingsley
her
clearly did something wrong. What did the prosecutor do wrong?
He has testified that he has a direct financial interest in.
Well, that would be good fodder for cross-examination.
Are you serious?
Are you kidding me?
Expect the court to rule.
I'm not going to strike his testimony.
What?
Maybe good fodder for cross-examination.
No, that
Wow.
you should
Okay.
strike his testimony.
Issue given the testimony in the
See, that's the point, like right there. He loses me right there. It's like you needed to, the only response is to get rid of the testimony, right? Is to stop the testimony. That's insane. One more super chat here, just to close up. Ben SC says on locals $1 says to counter your drug theory, he was able to successfully manage and fire 2 long guns and then get rid of the weapons, all while getting 0 DNA on him from the victims. Honestly, until they sorted out the wife's phone being 2 miles away at the same time his car was started, I don't know how it could have been done. Yeah, I think firing the 2 guns is a big fact, and we have heard no theories that get beyond that. But guys, I do have to run here. I've got a couple things to take care of over here in Bangkok. I will be back. Tomorrow, as well as next week, streaming here, and also we'll do some locals exclusives as well. Oh, sorry, there's a $10 super chat here. IWD says, this is why I think prosecutors should have the same punishment as those they wrongfully convict, and I don't think government employees should be allowed to vote. I would agree with that latter part. They have too much of a vested interest at this point. But I think wrongful prosecution is a serious problem, and there needs to be consequences for these bingers, right? For these people. I'm calling them bingers. You guys who have been here from Rittenhouse, you know what I'm talking about. These are bingers of the world that are wrongfully prosecuting people. That being said, guys, I will catch you later. Take care. See you later.